following podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Remember, the first rule of gambling responsibly is to bet with your head and not over it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cousin Vito's Casino Podcast proudly presents your guide to enjoying gambling. And now, direct from the bar, your cousin and mine, Cousin Vito!
Welcome everybody to Cousin Vito's Casino Podcast, your guide to enjoying gambling. I'm your host, Cousin Vito, and together we're going to make luck happen at the casino. Thank you for checking out episode number 129, and I'd like to welcome back my buddy, my pal, the first ever Eliminator Challenge winner, Mississippi Rob. Rob, it is great to have you on the show this week.
Hey, Vito, it's good to be here.
And we've been trying to record for a while now. We had a great conversation about Biloxi. The audio was ruined on my end, Rob, so we're going to have you back on the show and talk about Biloxi sometime. Hopefully you're up for that.
Yep, absolutely.
Because I'm thinking about taking me and a few friends down there this spring. We'll see. But that's not for today, Rob. We got a big show today. I have a special guest on this show, a casino host. His name, the mysterious Mr. P. Ooh.
That sounds pretty mysterious.
It's pretty mysterious. Really, it's not Halloween yet, but we're getting towards the Halloween season. We're going to have a little bit of fun there. But that isn't all. We're also going to go to the Fargo Poker Tournament, Rob. You've heard about Fargo before, right?
I sure have.
Oh, yeah, Mohegan Sun. It's this October 19th. I'm heading up there. And next week on the show, we're going to have Tracy. She runs Fargo Poker, Rob. And I'm going to be there. I'm staying over. We have Mohegan Sun room rates, and you're going to hear all about it next week.
That sounds good. It's probably going to make me a little jealous I can't be there.
Oh, you're going to be real jealous, Rob, because not only do we all play in a poker tournament together, me, Cousin Mikey, who knows who else is going to be there, all sorts of guests, but we're going to play in a private $5 craps table. That's what you get for being in the Fargo Poker Club. We're going to have a private $5 craps table, 8 p.m. at Mohegan Sun. It's like unbelievable.
Yeah, that sounds like something you just about can't pass up there.
You jealous yet? I'm sorry, Rob. I'm sorry. I have a feeling maybe we'll be coming to see you one day soon, I bet.
That's the only way you're going to be able to make up for it.
But that isn't all. We're going to make up for it. I also want to say we're getting closer to a Cousin Vito birthday bash, Rob. I'm talking November 9th, Springfield. I'm going to have more details in the coming weeks, but, I got a birthday party coming, Rob. I don't know. Does Mississippi, can you go right to Boston maybe? Go right to Hartford? Come to my party?
Oh, yeah, I'll be there in about 30 minutes or so.
Perfect. I love it. I'll save you a spot at the $100 slot pull maybe.
That sounds like a plan.
All right. And well, I guess we'll jump into the interview, and then after the interview, Rob, we're going to talk some Eliminator Challenge, some Pigskin picks, because you were the first ever Cousin Vito winner. So I might follow your lead this week. I'm excited to hear your thoughts because there is one big front runner, and it might be the pick of the season that either takes everyone to the promised lands or knocks out 75% of people one surprising week.
Yeah, that sounds pretty similar to last year. I think whenever a whole pile of us got knocked out right in like week 1 or week 2.
Oh, yeah, so hopefully we're not in that pile. Hopefully we don't end up in the pile, Rob. We'll see, and we're going to get into that after the interview. So, all right, Rob, well, maybe we'll jump right into the mysterious Mr. P right now. We'll listen to some host talk, then we'll get out, do some pigskin picks, and we'll get the hell out of here. You down for that, Mississippi Rob?
I'm down for it.
All right, sit back, grab a cocktail, and without further ado, I'd like to welcome the mysterious Mr. P. All right, I am here with a very special guest. We have the mysterious Mr. P, a casino host from an unnamed casino. Mr. P, it's great to have you on the line.
It's great to be with you, Vito. Hope all your listeners will get a kick out of this. We all share something in common as far as gambling is concerned. I just happen to work in a casino. Your people like to visit casinos. So maybe a little bit from the other side, working in the position that I do as an executive casino host, pass on some good tips and some good stories, make everything interesting.
Well, and I'm very excited because, I'm a novice. I try to be smart about the casino comps and what to do with the casino. But you're neck deep in this. Now, you're a host. Did you just apply to be a host, or did you work your way up in the industry? What attracted you to do a position like this?
Well, what attracted me to the position was desperation. I didn't have a job, but I did have a contact at the place that I currently work at, and he was very much high up the ladder. And the person that I interviewed with for the job, who is still my boss today, and this was almost 7 years ago, we shared an alma mater, so we had something in common from the get-go. And not to mention the reference, the contact that I had at the place I currently work at. I know that they had been looking for several months to fill my position. It was just a matter of finding the right fit. They found me. They haven't had to hire another executive host since. It's been 7 years. So I like to think that they did pretty good for hiring a novice.
Well, lucky seven. You must be getting the job done. And what are the the more exciting parts of your job? Now, obviously, everyone has their day today. There's some things you like doing, some things you don't like doing. But is there something that you just love doing as an executive host?
I MC a lot of events. I've been good on the microphone. My background was in media for many years before I got into the casino business. So I like communicating people. I like bonding with people. Being on the microphone and emceeing events is a great way to do that. I love the feeling of getting what I call a sale, getting somebody who I haven't had down in a while, who's going to spend a lot of money, and getting them on the phone and getting them to come down to my place this weekend. Hosts are very competitive. Don't ever, if for all of your listeners out there, if you are thinking to yourself, my host isn't that competitive, my host is pretty laid back, my host is an order taker, not a hunter, you need to get another host, because that host isn't looking out for you, and that host isn't going to put the things out there in front of you that are going to get you down to the casino. They're waiting. Those hosts are waiting for you to call them, and that's not really how this business works. So the competition aspect of my job is also something that kind of drives me and gets me to do the best job that I can and bring as many people into the casino as possible.
So you spend a lot of time. You almost go hunting a little bit. You look for those big players and try to acquire them. Now, how do you generally acquire a player? Is it through somebody coming to the casino and playing big, and you get them through there, or do you have other means of trying to find who are the big players from around different areas?
Well, the best means I have, and the best players that I have found, exclusively on my own, came from scouting the floor and scouting our database. I would love for every qualified player who's never had a host before to be directed to me, but that's not always possible. I have days off. Sometimes people don't use cards. Sometimes people come in at graveyard shift, but I've got a lot of means at my disposal to see who these players are that need to be in contact with an executive host. Some of it is in real time. Yes, I can scout the floor from the comforts of my office. I used to be able to do it from the comfort of my cell phone, but that we're in the midst of transitioning casino floor software, and so I haven't had that access in some time. But yeah, I could scout the floor live on my days off and write a name down and get in touch with that person when I got back to the casino. I have one guy, give you an example, lives many miles away from here, but his theoretical loss on a single day was like $4,000 or $5,000.
Wow,
that's a lot for our neck of the woods. And I'm sure your people that are listening are savvy enough to know what theoretical loss is as opposed to actual loss, so I don't need to get into too great a detail about that. But it was as simple as giving the guy a call.
Really? And then he was interested.
He's one of our as far as tier points are concerned in our loyalty program, he is easily top 3.
Wow.
So sometimes it sounds simple. It sounds like a monkey could do my job, but I am telling you, there are a lot of hosts out there, whether it's Vegas, whether it's East Coast, whether it's Oklahoma, whether it's it's in the Midwest or South, I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of hosts in this business, and I'm not saying I'm the only one that would make that call. I'm just saying there's a lot that wouldn't. And something simple as making a phone call, I've got a guy who fires it up every time he comes in.
So it's almost, you could sit at your job, rest on your laurels, do it passively, or there's a way to do it competitively, and that's how you get ahead in the host game. If you're just going to sit back and wait for the phone to ring, you're not going to be the big host at the casino. You really got to put the work in.
You do have to put the work in. You have to hustle. You have to have a sharp eye for numbers. You have to be a little bit fearless in going up and talking to somebody and explaining your role and explaining what you can do for them and explaining what you want from the player. There are people out there, I've worked with them. I've seen them at other casinos who won't go that extra mile, who are, as I like to say, order takers. But that's not me. I'm wired differently. And, if I see somebody who's firing it up who's playing black over multiple spots on the blackjack tables, or they're at a machine for 10 minutes and the theoretical loss is already $150. Well, I mean, that's somebody I want to go meet, because those are people that are going to fire it up. And I want anybody who wants to fire it up, I want them in my joint.
Now, for a novice player, like a lot of listeners, including myself, we like, trying to play smart, get that average daily theoretical up. Now, what's a threshold for you? Obviously, all casinos, they're going to be different in different parts of the country, but what would a threshold for you to be to say, all right, you need your average daily to be around here to even consider, trying to have a host or trying to get into that game?
Right. Okay, let me give you a little bit of background on the numbers that I deal with every day, okay? I have a quarterly goal, a quarterly theoretical of just under $2 million, okay? And I've got 550 players that are going to go towards that $2 million. My average player typically runs about, per trip, and a trip can be somebody who's in the place for 5 minutes, or a trip can be somebody who plays for 10 hours. But every player who registers action on their player's card averages for a day about $440 in theoretical loss.
Okay.
So my minimum is I'm going to be looking for somebody who is going to do at least 300. If they're doing less than that, then it's because they're a high visitation, high volume visit player who might be local, who I don't need them to fire it up every time they show up. Okay. But I do need them to, if they're coming 15 to 20 times a quarter, then maybe I can get them to come 18 to 25 times a quarter. And that adds up and that helps. But to get on my radar, and I have people ask me all the time. I say, in fact, I'll give you an example. I had a lady that came in this weekend, a sweet girl, lots of fun. I used to host her at one time. She's no longer on my coded list of players, but I still help her out because she's a great gal. And she brought in her friend, and she's like, well, do you want to take a look at her play? And maybe she can call you in the future when she comes down here. And I think it was her first or second visit. And I think her theoretical loss on a Saturday night was like $125. And I said, you know what? I said to her friend, I said, I think for the time being, you need to ride on your friend's coattails and go through her and have her go through me. Because I don't want, look, I love people, don't get me wrong, but my time's valuable, and I don't need somebody who's got a theoretical of $100, $125 calling me for a room on a Saturday night, because those are not people I want to put in my joint. Saturday night, my criteria is a little bit higher if you're calling me cold. For somebody who's not a part of my roster, if I have average availability on a Saturday night, let's say I've got let's say it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I've got 5 rooms left, you better be a solid $500 plus player if you're going to call me on a Saturday night looking for one of the last rooms we have in the house. Anything higher than that, obviously, I'm a company guy. Even if you're not coded to me and you're not one of my hosted players, if I've got 5 rooms left and somebody who hasn't been to my place in 2 years but has a $1,500 Theo calls me on a Saturday night looking for a room, I'm going to get him in. I'll get him in.
He'll have a bed to sleep on.
He will. I'll get him I might even get him in at the expense of one of my hosted players.
Wow.
Because that's a guy who a $1,500 Theo, he could lose $5,000. That's real cash. So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of judgment calls that you have to make it when you're in my shoes. Most of them are pretty straightforward ABC, but sometimes you get one that's B, J, X, D, Z, and you really got to ask yourself, what are you trying to accomplish here?
Now, for us patsies out here now that are red chip players, green chip players, now I've dealt with hosts before, and I always have, maybe it's a guilt factor I have in my life, maybe it's the way I was raised or brought up, but I don't know how much I have to play. So when I go, I tend to overplay to make it so I don't make my host upset. But what type of situations have you been in? Have you ever given somebody the moon and then they didn't play at all and it really burns your biscuits? Or how in depth are you looking at how someone's playing? Is it dependent on just what you gave them, or are you always keeping an eye on them?
Well, I'll give you 2 examples of how this works. Okay, I don't really sweat action or lack of action from a particular player. Not the first time. If it becomes habitual, then I get worried. And you know what? And sometimes it's just as simple as dropping them from my roster and not even telling them. I can convenience myself from an inconvenient moment really easily, okay? But the 2 things that bother me, all right, and here's the first one, and again, I think your people are savvy enough to understand what I'm going to say here, and they'll be like, well, duh, of course I would never do that. But I have people frequently, not all the time, explain to me that they think their player's card is unlucky, or that they haven't been using their player's card as frequently as they should. Oh. Well, I'll tell you what right now. You ever say that to a host, you have already gotten the relationship off to a very bad start. Remember that $2 million I mentioned earlier, my quarterly goal, Vito?
Oh yeah.
How do you think that $2 million is tracked?
Through everyone's player, through all those players' cards.
You're right, and if you are expecting something from me, but you're not going to take the steps necessary. I mean, that's the first thing. That is basic. That is casino gambling 101. The card is not unlucky, okay? You can't pull the card out and time it right and then the machine starts spitting you money, okay? It doesn't work that way. But when you say to your host, I felt like taking the card out would be a good change of pace. You know what a good change of pace is? You calling reservations and getting your hotel room that way and being put on hold for 20 minutes and then being told, I'm sorry, we're going to charge you a rack rate tonight. That's unlucky. That's unlucky. And that's what will happen if your host suspects you have some weird tinfoil hat feelings about the player's card. Because everything I do is based, I shouldn't say everything I do, how my boss judges me and how I am judged as an executive host. First and foremost is all about the number on the card. Your play, card in the machine, coin in, theoretical calculated, all of it. Hosts need that. And when you're talking about what you got to do to impress a host, I'm not going to say this is a one-size-fits-all, but I'll tell you what you can do to unimpress a host, and that is not use your player's card. That is fatal. I have told people to their face, I cannot host you if you're not going to use your player's card. I can't. I won't. I've got food to put on my table.
And you get a lot of that? You actually get a lot of people that say, I don't want to use my player's card today. I'm just not feeling it.
I would say I probably encounter, it's easily monthly.
Wow.
Easily monthly. Now, the thing that's fortunate for me is that the longer I've been here, look at it this way. I can promise you, there's nobody on my roster, and I've been here 7 years. There's nobody on my roster that has gone that entire 7 years with being real blasé about their player's card. I've weeded those people out. These are often people that I've known for less than 2 years that I have to have a conversation with. I had the same conversation with somebody who emailed me wanting to know why they weren't getting any offers. Here's a little tidbit for everybody as well, too. You will stay on a casino's active mailing roster, but there are play thresholds that you have to reach in order to maintain getting monthly offers. At my place, it's not that much. I believe it's $25 in theoretical loss average. Your daily ADT, your daily CO averages $25. If you do that, you're going to get offers. They're not going to be, those offers range,
$5 slot play or whatever.
Right. You're going to get something from us if you maintain that average. I had a girl who literally was, her daily CO was literally in the pennies. And given the distance that she was coming to visit my joint, I knew she was not coming to my joint and cycling through $10 and then calling it a day and driving home. That made no sense, especially since this was somebody who in 2018 had a CO for the calendar year. For 2018, she had a theoretical of almost $9,000.
Wow.
Her average daily CO was about $200, $250. It was a little bit below my range of what I'd like to see in a player, but I also knew that this was somebody who came a lot. So if you come a lot, I don't need you to knock it out of the park every time you come. And then maybe if you hit that jackpot and gamble for 6 hours instead of 4 hours, that's where you're helping me out, because you're playing above your level that you have established. And going back to the email, she'd emailed me wanting to know why she didn't get any offers. And I told her, I said, I know why you're not getting any offers. You're not using your card. And I spelled out everything to her that I just spelled out to all of your listeners. You're coming down here a lot. You're playing a lot, but the card's not showing it because nobody drives the distance you do to play what is showing on the card. You're not using the card. And she responded back, oh my God, you're right. I haven't been using the card. I'm so sorry. What am I going to do to get back on? It was really cute. And we've had some good conversations since. And I'll probably add her play is reflective of what I like to see in somebody who I consider a local. And I'll probably add her back to my roster for the next quarter. And it's a good relationship now. She knows I'll shoot straight with her. I'm telling you, guests, there are a handful that get offended when you tell it to them like it is, but they have big problems in life, not just in the casino. They go into their everyday lives and they can't be told anything. Well, I've had people like that, and they're gone. And they don't come back, and I don't really care. But
Mr. P will tell them like it is.
Yeah, I there are times where I have to be tactful. I have to apply a smoother finish to things. I'm being very honest and forthright. But this is a podcast. I want to keep your listeners engaged. I want them to be entertained. But how I interact with guests in my office, out on the floor, sometimes, a lot of the times, it's a little bit like, hey, Mr. C, what we're doing here, we gotta change things up a little bit or something like that. So, I've always loved being around people, but my people skills have really improved in this position because you gotta be ready to use a deft, fine touch with everybody you come in contact with. Now, sometimes you know the person and you have a relationship and you can bust some balls. You can really spell it out for them.
And some people are more sensitive to that.
Yeah, but you should know that before you start talking to them.
Now, you since you get to know people, do you ever get any weird requests? Have any things you couldn't fulfill or things you really had to say, all right, you know what, you're a big player, let me see if I can do this for you? Now, is it mostly rooms and food and beverage and stuff, or what types of perks that the people really seek out?
You know, I might be tipping myself off as to where I'm at by saying this, but our location is really an advantage to us with regards to the really weird, because we're not really located for us to be able to satisfy any request on a whim. All right. I can't make a call from my office and get a floral delivery within 30 minutes.
Okay, all right. So I'm getting the gist here.
Right.
You need
so
a little leeway, a little headway there.
Well, I don't get the really weird. I really don't. I'm really scratching my head. The requests that I get are along the lines of, and I've got one guy who's always on me about this. He wants higher table maximums. Not table. He doesn't want the minimums lowered. He wants us to spread 1,000, 10,000.
Wow.
At the tables. And he wants us to bring in a certain carnival game that we used to have. We don't have it anymore. He wants to be able to play. I'll tell you what, this guy would play if we could offer it, and if we didn't have the exposure on it. And when I say when somebody in my side of the aisle in the casino business talks about exposure, we're talking about what we are at risk to lose. Okay. I think when it comes to video poker, our biggest exposure is short of 200,000 in one hit. But this is a guy that if he would want to play 10-handed deuces wild for $25 a credit. So 10-handed, that's going to be what, $250? No, 10 times. Am I getting that right?
I'm doing it in my head now. So $125 a hand. You got 10 hands.
Right. $12.50 per spin. I think something's not right about the numbers there. Basically, this is a guy that always wants to increase the table maximums, and there's only so much that I can do there. We got a Ultimate X triple play up to I think we got it up to did we get it? We got it up to $1. That's $18 a hand, but he wants to do it 5 and 10, which would be 10 would be $60 a hand, and 5-handed would be 30, but that would increase our exposure. If he got dealt, and the max exposure in Ultimate X comes from having a dealt full house followed by a dealt royal flush. And I think on dollars at a triple play, I think it's 144,000. Well, imagine what the exposure would be if we did that 10-handed. So that's the one request that I get all the time. Hey, Mr. P, you got to raise your table maximums here. And I'm like, Mr. C, I wish I could, but that's not my call. That's the director of casino operations, as well as the general manager at that point. I do deal with some credit where somebody who might have a $20,000 line of credit wants 30. That's generally not a big deal unless the guy's a bum and has a bad history with us. But I guess the great thing about my place is that we don't deal with a lot of credit. We're a pay as you play or play as you pay type institution or whatever you want to call it. So I don't have some of the stickier financial requests. Don't have to deal with them so much. But when you're talking about the weird stuff that you hear that people want in a room, or that they want for their girlfriend, most of the time, a nice bottle of wine or some balloons in the room, a lot of the stuff that takes care of them just fine. I'm not.
Nice. And you're dealing with people who are coming there to gamble, have a good time. You're not dealing with anything eccentric where you are.
No, I don't. Well, I don't. I got some people who would be legitimate high rollers in Las Vegas, but certainly no whales. There's certainly nothing so extravagant or pricey or haute that we need to come up with to keep somebody like that happy. Because why are they? They're not going to come to my place for that. They can go to the Aria, and they'll get that in spades. But a lot of the people I deal with, they want something for their money. They want to be treated with respect, and they want to have a good time.
Now, throughout all this time with these players, have you seen any nights where you look back and you say, "Oh, I got this guy a room. Let's see how he did," and you're sweating because somebody's lost so much, or you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this guy won so much." Have you seen any big giant wins or any really heartbreaking losses?
I got a guy who texted me today while I was out on the golf course, and he's coming in next week, and he's going to help out significantly. and several years ago, while I was asleep, he lost $60,000.
Oof.
For the trip, he lost 80.
Oh my
God. He's had some good days since, but I don't think he's come close to making that money back. But then I've had people, every time somebody hits a major jackpot, a major in our house is 5 figures or greater, $10,000 or more. That's a major jackpot. And, I recognize most of the names that come across there. I recognize, and I always get a kick when it's one of my people. But when somebody beats us up, I don't sweat that. No. I mean, we're not. The only places that sweat truly getting beaten up are your major casinos that offer heavy baccarat action. Okay, your margins are thin there. Baccarat can make or break a quarterly statement. All right, but at my place, somebody beats us for $5,000. I'll tell you one thing. We had a guy. No joke. We had a guy about 3 years ago go on a devastatingly effective craps run against us, just killing us. And to top it all off, we had some climate issues that really put a hit into our visitation. And this guy's just destroying us at craps. But there was never any panic. There's never any like, well, we got to do something about this guy. Maybe we can steer him towards roulette instead of crap. Like, what does that mean? We know what the advantage is in craps. It's minuscule. There are margins, and if you hit a few of those center bets and get lucky, yeah, you can do some damage. But this guy wasn't meant to be. He was passing off $500 chips to other people at the table. And saying, hey, you can bet this. If you win, keep the winnings and give me the chip back. If you lose, no worries. If you lose, no worries. Well, there are a couple of times people took him up on that, and they said, no, I'm keeping the $500 chip as well, too. They didn't necessarily say it to his face. Their actions were basically telling him, I'm getting the hell out of here while I can. This is a good setup. But yeah, when this guy was killing us at dice, there was never any sweat from our accountants and our finance people about this guy. Now, the sad thing about this guy is is that he ended up losing a good chunk of it back in the sports book, which is typical for a lot of places nowadays, was leased out to a third party and wasn't falling under the auspices of the casino, if you know what I mean.
So
he was
takes the winnings from the casino,
back.
loses it to somebody else under the same roof, basically.
Right. So a good chunk of that money we never saw again, and I haven't seen this. If you're for those out there that are knowledgeable about pro football and want to talk brutal beats, go back to a Monday night game between the Chiefs and the Redskins a couple of years ago to get an idea of what could cause somebody to retire from sports betting.
I can only imagine. I've been on a 3-year-long retirement tour. I've been missing everything I do here, Mr. B.
Oh, hey, there are times I can't even pick my nose, so I know what you're talking about.
And where you are, do you ever deal with players doing any type of shenanigans, card counting, hole carding, anything weird like that? You ever see anyone trying to run some sort of scam on you?
Pass posting is common, or that's the most common way people have of cheating. For those that that are unfamiliar with the terminology, pass posting is placing a bet after the result has already been determined. So in blackjack, maybe somebody who isn't playing the royal match bet all of a sudden has the royal match, and when the dealer's taking care of another hand, they stick a 5 or a 25 out on there, something that they think they can get away with. Roulette, rife with pass posting. Craps is a little bit difficult to do because there's so many eyes watching the game. But yeah, there have been people that have been tossed from my joint for trying to make a wager after the outcome has already been determined. We've got the cameras on our side. Sometimes they'll, I didn't do that.
Let's go to the tape.
Yes. Here, you'd be better off. I'll tell you, if anybody out there, I do not advocate this at all for obvious reasons. Okay. But if you ever find yourself in a moment of weakness where you do something stupid, fess up to it immediately, because we've got it on tape, and the tape speaks all. And it's one thing to have a moment of weakness and to do something stupid like cashing out somebody's Tito or pass posting. When I say cashing somebody's Tito out, ticket in, ticket out, they're the vouchers you get from the machines. It's one thing to do something stupid. It's something else altogether entirely different when you double down on that stupidity and lie about it.
Right, and in the one place where there's 100 cameras watching you at all times, they could zoom in on your fingernails.
Right, exactly.
And I feel bad too. I was at and usually you see something like this late nights, people are drinking and stuff, and the pass posting, it's like a crime of passion because you have all this emotion, somebody who's been losing, and they're like, it'd be just so easy, I'll just put it out right now, nobody's paying attention, and you see them get caught up in this web where it's a moment of weakness as opposed to somebody coming in with a plan to try and take the casino. It's like you feel bad for them almost.
Well, look, as a player myself, okay, I can't gamble at my place for obvious reasons, but I can gamble in the town that I work in. And once in a blue moon, I have my moment of weakness, but it's nothing illegal. I'll tuck 22 playing blackjack.
Really?
I'll have a hand, I can just chalk it up to, oh God, I miscounted, blah blah blah. I discovered that by accident once because it ended up working, and it was a face down game too. And the dealer flips it over. It was 6, 7, 9. I mean, it was 22, but she paid me, and it was there in front of the cameras. And I thought to myself, oh, wait a second. Did I just stumble upon something here? Now, I mean, you've got to use that very, 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 very sparingly, okay? But that's quite different than pass posting. A casino will never let you get away with pass posting. But you innocently tuck 22, Oh, everybody miscounts. Heck, that's nothing. But anyway.
That's the thing, too, is it's like every once in a while mistakes do happen at a craps table. A payout's a little off. Something happens. Sometimes you don't even notice you get overpaid at something. Or, I mean, I'm sure at the craps table I've been there at night, and I've been underpaid and didn't notice, too. I'm sure it's a wash either way.
Right. So, yeah, I'm not – that's not me speaking from a host perspective. That's me speaking from a player perspective and knowing what I do in my work environment and what I know in my player environment and trying to differentiate, don't pass post. Don't steal a Tito ticket. Okay, if you're going to have a moment of weakness, tuck 22. That's your moment of weakness. Do that.
And before I let you go, Mr. P, when you go to the casino, what is your game of choice? You kind of touch on a bunch of different games. Do you have something you like to play, or what do you do is what I want to know.
Dice, cards, and video poker, but I'm not going to lie. I've been spending a little bit more time at the Buffalo slots lately.
Ooh, the Buffalo's tough. Don't get on the Buffalo. I actually had a nice win on the Buffalo recently, so who am I kidding?
Here's the thing about slots, though. This is my take on slots. Okay, they're fun to play if you look at them as entertainment, and walk when you win something significant.
Yes,
walk.
Run.
It's very
Run
simple.
when you win something significant.
Well, yeah, but if you're like me and you've been playing dice, cards, and video poker your entire life, and you have almost. I would say maybe not even 0.5% of my lifetime coin in is in slots.
Okay.
It's all video poker, cards, and dice. And if you're like me in that respect, you can dabble a little bit in the slots, but I mean, $20, $40. But as soon as you get something, cash out. It's simple.
You gotta
I
flip.
say it's simple. It's not simple, but it does. The discipline involved is not simple. The decision itself is very simple. When I play Buffalo, I limit myself to about $40, and in that $40, I hope to stay alive long enough to get into the bonus. And once I get into the bonus, well, then yeah, there've been a couple of times I've turned that 40 into 250, 300, and that's when I get up and walk. Because $300 lasts me a long time playing quarter video poker. So
a lot longer than that Buffalo game. That's for sure. Buffalo, it eats your quarters.
The first time I played Buffalo, I was in a casino in Colorado. I was at the Isle of Capri. I'll throw that mention out there. And we had just run a Buffalo promotion where if you earned X number of tier points, you got 10 free max bet spins on Buffalo.
Okay.
And I'd seen some people who on those 10 free max bet spins cash out $300, $400, $500 because they got into a bonus and it kept going. And I thought to myself, okay, there's money to be won in this in the short term. I don't, if everybody was getting their 10 free max bet spins and nobody was winning squat, well, that would just reinforce everything I've learned about slot machines. But it kind of opened my eyes up. And so next time I was in a casino, I was at the Isle of Capri, $20. I put in a bonus. Nothing. Literally nothing. It flashed total credits 1, 0 at the end of that bonus. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. I'll never play this crap again. But
That's what kills you with the Buffalo, too, because you'll get there. Sometimes you'll get 30 free games, 40 free games. What did I win? $2. You're there, and you got the eagle soaring. You got all the screeching going on.
Yeah,
and you walk out, and you're like, what did I even – let me turn the volume down. I'm embarrassed almost. I'm winning so little in this bonus round. Because then people will stop and look, and they'll be like, oh, look at this guy. He didn't even get anything in his bonus round. And then you go from this thrill of victory to you're like, who am I? I'm like a pauper over here, my $2.
Right. I mean, it's feast or famine, but the thing about Buffalo, at least, and I'll tell you what, slot machine manufacturers they're clever beyond belief. How many variants of buffalo are there out there now? Like 5 or 6?
And now they got the one near me. It's the dollar line. So you go and it's like, I could do the penny one, but then the dollar one I could do the 5 line, I could do the 9 line. So yeah, they're buffalo. They're buttering me up with the buffalo. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I've got guests who I consider friends, good friends. I'm taking a bunch of them down to Vegas with me next week, actually, who like to play slots, and I watch from them, and do I learn from them? I mean, what do you learn from a slot player other than turn around and run? But I like sitting down and enjoying the camaraderie. Monopoly is a good game like that, where you have the board where if you get the bonus, you can get chance or community chest, or you get the once around where you make a trip around the entire board. In a group setting, that can be kind of fun. And so I'll play Monopoly once in a while with these guests of mine. It involves us leaving my casino, and I don't necessarily like it when my guests go across the street, but in some instances, I can handle that. That's another thing too. In Vegas hosts, I would imagine, have two things to really worry about. Their players showing up and not playing, or even worse, their players showing up and going across the street. I don't have to worry about that, but I'm sure Vegas hosts do. Quite a bit, I'd imagine. I
can only imagine, because even me, I'll go out there, I'll book a room. You book a room somewhere, sometimes you're barely even there during the day. It's not like you go to, like around here in Connecticut, we have our reservation casinos. If you're staying at Foxwoods or Mohegan Sun, you don't have many options to go gamble anywhere else, where I'll go stay at Harrah's or Bally's or something. I could walk into another casino, you barely even notice it. You go through a doorway, you're somewhere else now.
Right, exactly, yeah. The location I am in is both a benefit and a detriment. There's no doubt about that.
Now, Mr. P, I want to thank you for coming on the show here. We're running and we're almost going to go an hour on this baby, and I think we're just scratching the surface. So before we get out of here, I want to extend another invitation to come on a little later this season here.
Absolutely. I would love to. And like I said, there are all kinds of stories that I have to deal with. But one more tidbit I want to put out for your listeners there until next time. One of the biggest flaws that players have when interacting with hosts is that it's the player that wants to set the expectation. It's the player that wants to set what is appropriate as far as comps, room types, etc. It's okay if you do that, but just remember, it's always better when the host does it, and then he surprises you by going above and beyond what you're expecting.
It's like a little psychology there too, because if you start pressing the host for it, they're gonna be like, "Hey, this guy, and even if he can maybe get you something, it's more fun if he gets to surprise you with something good because you had some good play in."
Right. Like somebody who calls me for a room late night, if they ask me for a suite, I can't think of anything dumber to do. I spend my entire week trying to ensure that my suites are filled with qualified players, and you're going to act like you can come in 20 minutes and I'll have one ready for you? No. But if you ask for a regular room, and I know you're a qualified player, and I just happen to have a suite available, then I will put you in the suite, and you'll feel a lot better than you would if you just ask for it every time.
Yes, and you're treating your host a little better because he doesn't have to keep saying no every time. You keep bugging him for it. Like, hey, this is freaking guy. No, I'll get you a room. That's what you're getting. Come and play, but what do you want from me?
Oh, I got plenty of more stories about this line of thinking, but yes, we have been on for a while, but I would love to come back another time, Vito. And I'm not, I got to be honest with you, I'm not a podcast guy per se. I'm an Apple iTunes music guy, and I'll be listening to Iron Maiden or Green Day or Def Leppard on my way into work every day. But now that I've looked at your website and everything like that, I need to start listening to some more of your podcasts and checking out how things are, because I
It's
spend
growing.
a lot
The
of time in my
podcast,
car.
they keep growing too. It's like unbelievable. I'm telling you, I didn't put one out all summer. I came back. There was more downloads than ever when I put out my next episode. So it's really like a snowball's going on in the recreational gambling industry here.
Well, and I'm always eager to be in tune with what others are saying in the business and outside of the business. So I appreciate the opportunity to pass on some of my knowledge and experience to your listeners. And believe me, I'm gonna be having Cousin Vito in my Bluetooth on my car going to work for some time now.
Oh, well, my condolences to you. But Mr. P, next time I have you on, you know what I'll do? I'll get in touch with you and I'll post it out to the listeners. Maybe they have some questions or certain things that they were wondering about and they want to ask a real casino host about it.
Sure, absolutely. I'm all up for it.
All right, perfect. Well, enjoy your rides to work and best wishes to you. Thank you again, Mysterious Mr. P, and you're going to be back on soon, baby.
Thanks, Cousin V. Love ya.
Thank you. All right, well, that was the Mysterious Mr. P. And Rob, do you feel a little bit smarter hearing that?
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like I'm smarter. I feel like I got to adjust my headset. My brain is growing. And speaking of your brain growing, Rob, you want to get into some pigskin picks here? You want to go with the Cousin Vito Eliminator Challenge?
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Cousin Vito's Pigskin Picks.
All right, I am here with Mississippi Rob, as we know. Rob, the first ever Cousin Vito's Casino Podcast Eliminator Challenge winner. And we're in week 3 of the NFL season here, Rob. And we're going to run down the picks because it's a close one. I see you're still in there. I see Atlantic City J still in there. I see Thornburg. You can bet on that still in there. We actually lost a couple of good ones this week, though, Rob. Not everyone can be so lucky. We lost Cousin Mikey this week. He went with a pick of the Chargers.
Oh, yeah, I may have lost a little money on that one, too. Thankfully, I didn't put my eliminator life on the line with him.
He's hurting, Rob. The Chargers, they hurt him. They hurt Chris Head, but we can't dwell on the past, Rob, because guys like me, guys like you, probably even some gals in there, we're in week 3 of the Pigskin Pick'em, Rob. And are you ready to get into these picks?
Oh, yeah, let's go.
The Cousin Vito Eliminator Challenge, where you don't have to pay to play. That's right, Mississippi Rob. We are knee-deep in an Eliminator Challenge here, and we are going to go over the top 3 most popular picks on ESPN's Eliminator Challenge. And we had almost 100 people in there. I got to do the final tally, but listeners, you have almost $80-90 out of my pocket that you're going to win if you win this thing, Rob, and that could be yours.
Hey, that sounds great to me. I'll go ahead and take it in my wallet as soon as you can give it to me.
Well, hopefully not very quickly, Rob, because, boy, I want to last longer than I did last year. And this week's most popular pick, 60% of the ESPN Eliminator Challenge players are picking the Dallas Cowboys at home against the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have looked horrible. It looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better. And the Cowboys, they're looking pretty good, so it seems like an easy pick. Cowboys at home.
Yeah, I seem to remember a certain quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys being from about 30 minutes away from where I am right now. You know, he had a pretty storied college career there, so I think he might be a very good pick for this week.
And I might have to go with that. A lot of times I try and bluff and think what I'm going with, but it might be one of those seasons that for the time being, I might follow the Dolphins around, especially when they're on the road, because they've been demoralized. They just traded Fitzpatrick. It's, getting a little scary in Miami. I don't think they're going to come ready to play this week.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to manufacture many points against anybody the way that they've just kind of demolished that team, So it's like they're not trying, and it looks like, especially with the Cowboys as good as they look, they should have a pretty easy time with it.
And for the sake of discussion, we're also going to talk about the second most popular pick, the New England Patriots at home against the New York Jets. They're on their third quarterback. The Patriots are looking about as good as ever, Rob. I don't know your thoughts on the Patriots. You're down in Mississippi.
They look as good as they've looked in a long time. They've always kind of leaned on Brady for quite a bit the last few years. But, man, that defense, it looks pretty scary good right now. And when you compare them to the rest of the AFC East, they look like a pretty safe pick no matter which week you pick them. So I may try and save them for a little bit here.
You could save them, but you could also make an argument that the Jets are at a very low point right now with their third-string quarterback. and that the Patriots are at a high. So maybe you take the Patriots now and you say following the Dolphins and save your Cowboys pick.
Yeah, yep, that is a good point.
Not that I'm going to do that. I'm doing that, Rob. But, you can make a case for it if you wanted to make the case, I guess.
Absolutely.
And the third most popular pick, just for old time's sake, we have we're getting there. Green Bay Packers at home against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos gave the Bears a scare, but Trubisky really isn't looking too hot. And the Packers, they're 2-0, so they're at Lambeau. Not a bad pick.
Yeah, they seem to be working their way through things. It looks like their defense, again, it's another defensive thing that their team just looks really solid on that side of the ball. So they're still kind of working through things offensively, but it could be an interesting game there with the Broncos.
As a Bears fan, it pains me to say it, but the Packers look really good, and the Vikings look good too. You know what I mean? I would love to knock the Vikings or the Packers right now, but they are the real deal, it looks like, and they really have worked through some things.
Yeah, it looks like your Bears got their hands full this year.
Yeah, it looks like Trubisky's got his hands full out there, I'll tell you that. He's making me nervous.
Yeah, that one's probably going to come back to haunt y'all for quite a few years now. He's not looking too strong there. He may be able to play running back or wide receiver, but I don't know about throwing the ball.
No, not at all. We could have had Mahomes. Think about that. I don't want to think about it, actually, Rob. Sorry, I didn't mention that. All right. So I think we're doing it. I'm going to click in the Cowboys right here. The Patriots, I think you were right. The Patriots, they're going to be good all season, but the Cowboys against the Dolphins are at an all-time low right now, so you got to go Cowboys at home. If anything else happens, I'll be shocked. But I've been shocked before. Yeah,
I know that feeling. It could be shocking, but like I said, with Dak and with Kellen Moore revamping their offense, I don't see how that one stays within 2, maybe even 3 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, a homecoming for Zeke. He's going to run all over him. All right, Rob. Well, thank you for coming on the show here. What a bumpy road it's been to get you on. We had a little bit of an interview today here. We didn't get an hour into Biloxi like I want to, but we got to hear a little bit from a casino host, and I feel like we had a little fun.
Absolutely, we sure did.
And I want to remind everybody, head over to FargoPoker.com. Check out the events. Check out the deal with the membership. And if you sign up using the promo code VITO19, you'll get half off the $30 membership, which is $15. And that gives you access to join these private poker tournaments, gives you access to this private craps table. Rob, if you were living up here, you'd come to the Fargo Poker event with me, right?
Oh, that's a no-brainer there. I'd be there.
All right, perfect. Well, 2 weeks later, you got to come to my birthday party at MGM Springfield. You going to do that for me, maybe?
Why not? I may just stay the whole 2 weeks through.
What the heck? I like that. We can watch football together. You know how to cook? We could drink some beers, maybe have some scotch. I think it sounds like a grand old time, Rob. Pack your bags.
I'll start working on it now.
Perfect. And I don't know what it is, Rob. I don't know if it's the fact that Fargo Poker's coming, that my birthday bash is coming up, that I'm thinking about coming down to Biloxi sometime in the future. But I got a funny feeling that between me, you, the mysterious Mr. P, everyone out there in the podcast land, that together we're going to make luck happen.